The night before her wedding, Areeba stood alone on the balcony, the city lights trembling like nervous stars below her. Somewhere inside the house, relatives laughed too loudly, as if noise could drown out truth. She pressed her palm against her chest, feeling the ache she had carried since the day her father said, "It's decided." She had not been asked what she wanted. She had been told what would save the family. Tomorrow, she would marry a man she had never met, to settle a debt she had never created. Areeba had grown up believing patience was strength. Her mother had taught her that dignity could be worn quietly, like a shawl against cold mornings. When her father's business collapsed and creditors began to circle, patience became survival. The proposal arrived like a verdict. A wealthy man twice her age would clear the debts. In return, Areeba would become his wife. Her protests were met with silence. Her tears were met with urgency. Love, she was told, could come later. Then, the night cracked open in an unexpected way. The groom never arrived. Phones rang. Whispers rushed through rooms. The deal was unraveling. By dawn, the creditors would return. Areeba's father looked older than he ever had, his shoulders bent under a weight he could no longer carry. In the chaos, a soft voice spoke from the doorway. It belonged to Salman, the family's driver, who had ferried them through years of modest comfort and recent months of fear. He had kind eyes and a careful manner, the kind that made people forget he was there. "I will marry her," Salman said, steady as stone. "The debts will be paid." The room froze. Areeba stared at him, stunned. Her father laughed bitterly, thinking it a joke. But Salman did not smile. He simply met Areeba's gaze, asking without words if she trusted him enough to step into the unknown. The wedding happened in a blur. There was no grandeur, no bargain struck in whispered corners. Just vows spoken with shaking voices and a promise that felt heavier than gold. Areeba moved into a small apartment above a garage, trading silk curtains for sunlight and space. Salman drove as always, rising before dawn, returning late. He treated her with a gentleness that confused her, as if he were protecting something fragile he did not own. Life tested them quickly. Neighbors gossiped. Relatives turned cold. Areeba learned the sharp edge of pride when she saw pity in familiar eyes. Salman absorbed insults with silence. At night, they spoke carefully, like strangers sharing a room. He cooked simple meals. She learned to fix what broke. They built a rhythm, not of romance, but of respect. One evening, Areeba asked the question that had been burning in her chest. "Why did you do this?" Salman paused, the spoon hovering above the pot. "Because I know what it is to be cornered," he said. "And because I believe marriage should be a shelter, not a sentence." She wanted to ask more, but he turned back to the stove, and the moment passed. The first real storm came when Salman lost his job. The owner sold the cars, the routes vanished, and with them the little income they had. Areeba took work tutoring children. Salman found temporary labor, coming home with hands rough and back aching. Money grew tight. Arguments flared, then faded into apologies. Some nights, Areeba cried quietly, wondering if fate had simply chosen a different shape for her cage. Then, one afternoon, a sleek black car arrived at the garage. A man in a tailored suit stepped out, calling Salman by another name. The air shifted. Salman listened, jaw tight, eyes distant. When the man left, Salman sat on the steps and told her the truth. He was the only son of a powerful industrial family. Years ago, he had walked away from wealth after refusing to run the company in ways he believed were wrong. He chose anonymity, honest work, and a life small enough to keep his conscience clean. The debts that had been paid on their wedding day had come from an account he had never intended to use again. Areeba felt betrayed and relieved all at once. "You let me believe we were struggling," she said, hurt sharpening her voice. "I wanted to be chosen without my money," Salman replied. "And I didn't want to save you with a lie. I wanted to stand beside you as a man, not a fortune." The decision that followed was theirs together. Salman's family demanded his return, threatening legal battles and public scandal. Areeba faced her own test. She could step into luxury, erase every hardship, and never worry again. Or she could walk into a storm with a man who had already risked everything for his principles. They chose to fight. The months that followed were relentless. Lawyers, headlines, pressure that pressed into their bones. Salman refused control without reform. Areeba found her voice in meetings, her calm cutting through rooms that underestimated her. She learned contracts and consequences, discovering strength she had never been allowed to claim. Together, they turned the company toward transparency, fair wages, and sustainable practices. Enemies became cautious allies. Skeptics became supporters. When the dust settled, Salman stood at the helm, not as an heir, but as a leader accountable to more than profit. Areeba launched an education foundation for girls facing forced marriages, offering scholarships and legal aid. The same relatives who once whispered now watched with awe. On their anniversary, they returned to the balcony where fear had once ruled. The city lights looked steadier now. Salman took Areeba's hand. "I didn't save you," he said. "We saved each other." Areeba smiled, feeling the truth of it settle deep. Love had not arrived like a fairy tale. It had grown through choice, courage, and the refusal to let circumstances decide their worth. She thought of the girl she had been, taught to endure quietly, and the woman she had become, unafraid to stand tall. Their story spread, not as gossip, but as hope. A reminder that dignity is not given by wealth, that marriage should never be a transaction, and that sometimes the safest shelter is built by two people who dare to choose each other when the world offers easier exits. And in that choice, they found something richer than inheritance. They found a life they could be proud of. Together, Shaadi Kubad Peli Kuchtin Areeba Kuliya Ajib Kamoshi Lekare. Wo Jogar Chode Kar Iet, Wahan Shor Zyada the Lekan Apnapan Kam. Yahan Koda Sa Flatha, Sitian Thaki Hui Lagti T, or Kidki Se Surf Ek Purana Neem Ka Ped Dike Idita the. Salman Suba Andhir Main Nikal Jada or Rat Ko Thaka Hualata. Unk Beach Batain Hoti T, Lekan Bahut Zyada Nahi. Jays Dano Ek Dusar Kuzakman Ko Bina Chui Samajan Ki Koshish Kar Rahihan. Areeba Ne Dear Samja Kusalman Surf Driver Nahi, Ek Zimadar Insan Hai. Wo Usi Kabi Hukm Nahi Dita the, Kabi Awaz Buland Nahi Karta the. Agar Wo Chuprati, Salman USS Kamoshi Kob is at Dita. Kabi Kabi Rat Kukain Par Wo Areeba Se Pukta, Aaj Thak Gai. Or Areeba Ko Herod Hodi Kukoi Uski Thakan Be Dek Sakta Hai. Furby, Dilkajishi Kon Main Ek Dar Reda. Log Kia Kahenj. Kia Yeshaadi Surf Majbori Ka Boj Ben Kar Ray Jayeji. Asli Imtihantab Aya Jab Areeba Kumek Se Phone Aya. Uski Rishtadaran Ne Tane Shuru Kar Dai. Koi Kata, Driver Se Shaadi Kar Ku Apna Mustakbil Barbad Kar Lia, Koi Kata, Abdekna, Kuch Salan Main Yebi Chode Dega. Areeba Phone Band Kar Ku Ro Padi. Usi Laga Jays Wo for Se Wahi Choti Si Ladki Ben Gai Ho, Jisk File Hamesha Dusar Kardi Rahi. Us Rat Salman Ne Uc Rhoda Deka. Pali Bar Us Areeba Se Pura Sach Pucha. Areeba Ne Apna Dard Bayan Kia, Apni Sharm, Apna Gussa, Apni Majbori. Salman Ne Kuch Nahi Kaha, Bas Suna. For Dear Se Bola, Log Hamesha Batain Karenj. Lekin Agarham Kud Par Yakin Kar Line, To Unkiyawaz Dear Ho Jadi Hai. Us Pal Areeba Ko Mesus Waku Yeshadi Surf Ek Majbori Nahi, Shayad Ek Safi Ki Shuruat Hai. Pays Ki Tanji Badni Lagi. Bijli Ka Bil, Kiraya, Razmara Kukarch. Areeba Ne Gar Bathan Kubajay Tuition Padhana Shuru Kar Dia. Bak Jab Uc Miss Keh Kar Bulate, To Uska Himat Wapas Adi. Salman or Areeba Aksar Rat Ko Baith Kar Hizablagat, Kabi Hans Leet, Kabi Chupho Jate. Unk Beach Pyar Shayad Abi Lafsan Main Nahida, Lekin Saf Laden Ki Takat Zero Paida Ho Rahi T. Ekdin Salman Late Garaya, Chera Utrahwada. Usan Bataya Kun Naukri Chali Gai Hai. Areeba Ka Dil Baith Gaya, Lekin is Bar Wo Tudi Nahi. Usan Bas at Nakaha, Hum Mil Kar Kuch Na Kuch Kar Lenj. Ye Alpha Salman Kuliya Nei Roshni Ban Gay. Pali Bar Usi Laga Ku Wo Surf Zimadari Nahi, Jishi Ka Barosa Bihai. Us Rat Areeba Ne Chat Par Kade Ho Kar Shihar Ko Deka. Yezandagi Asan Nahi T, Lekin Pali Bar Ye Uski Apni T. Shayad Usi Pyar Dear Samaj Aa Rahada. Pyar jo majbori se shuru hua,